Welcome in, everybody. RFK Refugees Podcast. Ted here, John here, and this is a special preseason edition show we're giving you guys. We are joined by the wonderful, except for the team he supports, obviously. Got to get that part out of the way. But the very wonderful and always available Mark Fishkin from the Seeing Red podcast. Mark, thank you so much for joining. I will now give you can rag on DC if you would like. I will give you that. Since I went on your team, you can come on. You can rag on my team, which is very easy to do right now. Let me tell you.
We have an even number of MLS Cups in the last 18, 19 years now. So I think that's a good one, right? We can use there.
Mark, you've been on the show a couple times now, and I want to make sure you guys have been around. I was just on your website just to try to get an idea how long you've been around. You've been around since 2010, is that right?
Yeah, this is our 15th season. We launched when the arena opened in 2010.
That's amazing.
So yeah, I had brown hair this morning though, so I don't know what happened with that. But yeah, no, it's been a long time. We've recently made the jump to video as well, and we're still having fun. There's still lots to talk about every week, so we just keep going.
Just keep it.
That's what we're all trying to do. We're all trying to match your. That's a long bar to reach. So we're going to keep trying.
It's not a contest, but yes, it's been a minute for sure.
Well, Mark, thank you again so much for coming on. Let's go ahead and jump right into it. Part of the reason we asked you on this time, we waited. We waited even like a little longer than we thought. If you're new to the show, you might not know we had Mark Fishkin on when it looked like Chris Armas was a finalist way back in 2021.
I maintain we killed that, Ted. I maintain that the front office heard our podcast making fun of them. They're like, back it up, never mind, because it was reported by the Athletic that the owner had heard like the pushback and started to back away from the deal. Just saying. Yeah. I think the Mark Fishkin report on RFK Refugees, they're like, this is we're going to scuttle this.
No, they're clearly not. This is not what we want to be doing right now. Yeah.
This
will go a lot smoother, I promise.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and hopefully they don't hear this and say, "Hold on,
that's right, he's out of here."
To back up. Otherwise, we'll doubt we'll question our powers here real quick. But let's get into it. DC United hired, of course, Troy Lesesne, who was the coach for the New York Red Bulls last season. I guess I'm going to just kind of open it up. I'm going to open up with your comment, which was I made the joke. Well, let's make sure this is official before we will welcome Mark on to give us all the thoughts and analysis, and then the show gets kind of lost to time. I mean, if a Colorado podcast wants to come in and borrow that, they're welcome to. Let me just put that out front. But wanted to sort of get your thoughts. You said that any team would be lucky to have Troy Lesesne. I wonder if you can kind of give me a Cliff Notes, whatever version you can. Where does that come from? I guess. What did you see overall in his time there that makes you think, he's got what it takes to be a great MLS coach?
Yeah. Let me first say that, Troy was given the job at a time when the team was really at a nadir of the last few years. Earlier in the 2023 season, they had just to set the stage, they had brought in Dante Van Zier, who during a match against San Jose made a comment that was and I don't know firsthand because I wasn't on the field and it's never truly been reported as such, but he said a comment that African American players on the team took really badly. Now, I believe that there was a cultural miscommunication about a word that was said and the meaning behind the word that Dante had said in the heat of the moment. But Gerhard Struber, who was the coach of the team and had been the coach of the team since really all through COVID 2020 into 2023, and who we all thought was kind of not long for the team anyway, because they started out with 1 win in 11. This incident where he kept Van Zier on the field for 20 minutes while the refs and VAR and everyone was trying to find audio or visual evidence of what was actually said. In either case, it was a really bad time. Like, it was just a bad time. And Lesesne was elevated when Herstruber was let go, and he had a mission, which is turn it around, right? Now, we all know that MLS is a very forgiving league and that you can kind of figure it out halfway through the season and with the right results get to where you want to go. But Troy did not just get the team over the playoff line for the 13th straight year by winning with the latest decision day goal I think any of us had ever seen. They needed a 95th minute penalty at Nashville to get to the playoffs, but he really changed the culture of the team. And when I think about the role of a head coach, it's yes to go out there and get results and to maximize the resources that you were given. Red Bulls in 23 played the entire year without Lewis Morgan, their team leading scorer from 2022. He had a very young team because all Red Bull teams are relatively young. He got no help in the summer transfer window. And he was able, from the first moment he was given the reins, to have the team believing that they were going to make the playoffs. Remember, they'd won one of their first 11. This team had a run to the round of 16 in the Open Cup, losing in penalty kicks to FC Cincinnati. They had a run in the round of 16 in the Leagues Cup, losing to Philadelphia in penalties. And they wound up going to it was technically the first round of the playoffs, but the team pretty much played knockout matches throughout the entire month of September and October just to get to the playoffs. And so he is, not to give the entire interview away, but he's a tremendous individual. I mean, he is a guy that makes it very, very easy to believe in. And you guys are fortunate to have him. He's really a truly wonderful person.
I think the question that everyone had after sort of seeing that turnaround and seeing that run and seeing the playoff appearance is what was wrong with him? What could have possibly been the reason for this team that had seen a almost, I don't want to say unprecedented turnaround, but quasi miraculous turnaround from 11, as you said. What is the sort of speculation? I don't imagine there's, the publicly stated reason is probably we just decided to go a different way. What's the thinking on why the team might have gone a different direction?
Yeah, I mean, I asked Red Bull head of sport Jochen Schneider straight up during the end of season presser, what more could Lesane have done? And he was very quick to say nothing. He had done everything that they had wanted and more. But I think after a period for the Red Bulls, really since the 2018 Eastern Conference Finals, where they famously failed under Chris Armas at Atlanta at a time where they had won their third Shield, it's really been kind of 4 or 5 seasons in the wilderness for this team. And while New York is never going to be Miami, and there's only one Leo Messi, the team really hasn't had any named players in the interim. It's been mostly youth players, young DPs, not using all the DPs that we are allotted, and signing a player like Emil Forsberg, who is certainly not the biggest name the team has ever had, but he's a really solid signing. I mean, this is a 9-year Bundesliga vet. He's a Swedish national team player. And for Red Bull, he is old. I mean, he is 32, which is as old as Monsieur Henry was when he came to the Red Bulls. But they haven't spent money on a 30-year-old plus player in a long time. The point I'm trying to make, and taking a little while to get there, is I just think that the organization thought they wanted an experienced European coach to advance the team, past 4 straight or 5 straight first-round playoff exits. And, whether or not they continue to sign more quality talent remains to be seen in Red Bull land. And a lot of people are getting a little twitchy because we're a month away from the season, and Forsberg's a big signing, but they really need more and to be considered a contender, right? And in 2024, everyone's going to be chasing Miami, whether, until all of their legs fall off in the middle of the summer in South Florida. So, to back to your original question, I don't think there's anything that he could have done. If they had won MLS Cup, it probably would have changed their thinking for this next hire. But Troy has a tremendous runway ahead of him. Zach Prince, who's also joined Troy's assistant coach roster with you guys is also a terrific guy, really sharp, and he's just a person that believes in people, and he really empowers people to feel a connection. So as difficult as it will be, because I certainly will not be rooting for DC United, I will be rooting for Troy Lesesne.
That's a good way to put it. I wanted to ask, you talked a lot about how, the Red Bull philosophy, this Forsberg signing's kind of been a change, and the team itself, I have to say, I have to give hats off to your director of soccer, because I feel like that's been, I'm assuming he's director of soccer operations. I feel like that's been missing from DC when he was like, look, it hasn't been good enough. I feel like I've wanted them to say that forever. I've wanted them to be like, come on, guys, this is clearly not good enough. You can only polish this turd, but so much until you guys really need to come out and say it. And I think we've gotten maybe a little bit of an admission now, in interviews we've seen, but you talk about the team sort of having youth players, pushing youth, pushing development for the longest time, signing young players. Is there something maybe I think one thing I have felt, maybe this won't work in a New York soccer market, but I think in a DC market, we talk about players that grow. We talk, we all talk about Bill Hamid. Yes. Okay. We talk about Rooney, but, even in our other sports, Alex Ovechkin, any of the whatever quarterback draft pick is coming through that the Commanders fans talk about. So right. I feel like in this market, we're very prone to having guys that we develop and grow, and we get to sort of see grow. So I felt for years that the route DC should go. Is Lesesne maybe that type of coach that you could see? They have the video of him with the academy as well. Is he in his sort of season and a half? Did you see him, maybe give opportunities to younger players? Maybe if an older player is not performing, rather than just saying, well, he'll figure it out, saying, well, let me see what I have, from my, academy. And again, short time frame, maybe you didn't see it, but I'm just curious if maybe that's what DC saw.
Right. Well, I think the answer is yes. And, again, the notion that Red Bulls had older players to even throw out there, I think is a bit of a joke. They're traditionally, certainly during this kind of interregnum, since the team has been a contender in the league, they've had one of the youngest rosters in the league. And I mean, even now their current roster, and while yes, it includes their official first team roster, has an average age of 22. And so, a lot of the detractors of the team will say, well, it's a U23 team. And it is. I mean, you think about guys like Lewis Morgan, who's coming back, he's 27. And when speaking to him about, well, you're one of the older players on the team, and he's like, I am? I guess I am. Right. You can look at the growth of a player like John Tolkien, who, while he certainly didn't cover himself with glory against Slovenia the other day, he still believes that he has got a shot of making the 2026 World Cup roster. And for me, Lesesne's impact on him and letting him be him, because he's such an idiosyncratic guy. Like, he is really marches to the beat of his own drummer, but he has leveled up in such a massive way at left back under Lesesne. And he would be the first to tell you that, right? That he allows young players to be leaders on the team, right? Players like Danny Edelman, another homegrown, number 6, who was the captain of the U20 national team that went and played in the U20 World Cup. Players like a Cam Harper, who's kind of a tweener player who came to the Red Bulls, right at the start of 2020 before the pandemic, had kind of washed out of Glasgow Celtic, and he, while he wasn't certainly an everyday starter, he would come on and really, really impress young players, even like a Frankie Amaya, who, while he's been in the league for 100 years, he's 22, right? Right. I mean, and he came to New York kind of with his tail between his legs. He had a really bad experience at FC Cincinnati, where he was their first ever number 1 draft pick, and there was a lot of pressure. He's a really shy guy. And he became an everyday starter, not at the position that he was signed to play. He originally came into the league as a 10. He's not an MLS 10. He's an MLS 6. And so you kind of drawing out and building. And again, you had mentioned the academy, Ted. Kind of the entire ethos of the team now, and we're just about to break ground on their second and larger training complex, which also speaks to sorry for the I know
You're good.
I know
You're good.
I know. But to truly, really integrate, to have the U12s having lunch next to the first team players, to really be able to show everyone, we're united as a team. The Red Bulls U15s won the MLS Next, I guess, Cup at that age group. And he was so important to those group of guys, making sure that they knew that he was watching them, and actually signed a number of those guys. Julian Hall, Aiden Stokes are two kids from the U15s that got signed to first team contracts. So, I think he's definitely a guy who understands the value of an academy and really looks to, focus the entire organization toward a common goal. And he's really the type of guy that can do that.
I don't know what you're talking about, having state-of-the-art facilities, two massive sheds out in the middle of Loudoun County is a far superior training facility. Don't know what you're talking about. John, you can go next with your.
Yeah, I think you mentioned sort of like the dynamic of having a coach that's so driven on advancing young players, almost by necessity, also by what the roster was. I think a lot of DC United fans are looking at this hire and saying, well, Messi and his ilk are not walking through this door. So if we're going to succeed, it's going to be on the back of these 4 or 5 young players that have a decent pedigree. So it makes sense if you look at that from a perspective of, this is a guy who builds from the bottom and middle of the roster. He's going to elevate those people, allow them to take leadership roles. My concern, and I guess you really hadn't had this problem in New York just because of the roster, I am slightly concerned about how players like Christian Benteke and Matthias Klick buy into a player who, I'm not calling him Ted Lasso, but like he has like a Pete Buttigieg vibe in a positive way. Like he's just like, that is the thing he portrays. He's very self-deprecating. He's very understanding of his limitations. Like as a guy, yes, that's what I want in like a friend.
Right.
But then I look at that as a leader of men, of guys who have played at the highest level, who have been internationals, played in World Cups, and seeing like how do they buy into that dynamic. I can see Ted Pietro being like, yeah, but Christian Benteke being like, who is this guy that we signed? What is this about? What do you think about that idea?
Well, I mean, I would hope. I mean, this is something that's now happening in all types of sports, right? The notion of Sean McVay or Michael McDaniel in the NFL, right? I mean, these guys 40? The whole idea of you have to look like Bum Phillips in order to be you have to be George Allen, right? That's just for you guys, in order to coach a team is not necessarily the case anymore. And I would hope that a player like Benteke would be a true professional. He's played in the Premier League for many, many years. And it's like, this is the gaffer. Well, okay, let's go. If I'm Troy, I'm wrapping my arms around Benteke and being like, hey man,
what do you need?
like I'm so well, not just that, but like, I'm so glad you're here, and I'm really going to rely on you to help get the message out, right? Everyone looks up to you and respects you, and kind of a a Roy Kent, Ted Lasso kind of a, I kind of need you to figure like, oh boy, what was the great line? God, he's going to be so mad when we win him over, kind of thing. But I don't want to paint Lassane as Ted Lasso. I think that's unfair because whether or not, I mean, can understand why the comparisons would be there, but he's a guy in a hurry as well, and he's an ambitious guy, and I got to spend an afternoon at the training facility over the summer with a couple of Troy's college buddies from Charleston who happened to be at the training facility. Among them was like Kyle Martino's brother was there, and they were all, they're in their late 30s and early 40s, and they all were just like, this guy was born to coach. Like, he just was born to do it. I mean, listen, it looks like a strong wind would knock him over, right? I mean, I don't know if you've met him yet. He's not a large human being. He is small and slight and in shape for sure, but it's like, he's not, he doesn't necessarily have to be super loud, but he's just like really smart. He really cares about his players, his people. Yeah, maybe it is apt. I don't know, but I think the right. I think he's got certainly the leadership stuff down, and the real question is as you said, can he win over kind of grizzled veterans and who will decide that they want to buy in and want to play for him?
I think the other thing that took me by, I wouldn't say surprise, but it was noticeable, is that DC United's been a team that has mostly looked down on the lower leagues, has not looked to them for players, has not looked to them for coaching, has been, other than Ben Olsen, the idea has been like, we want an external, innovative guy from a better position, basically coming down to where we're at.
Mm-hmm.
And I assumed after the hire, I was like, oh, they're going to hire somebody with a lot of experience, an MLS vet, to be one of his assistants so that he's got some. And they have said, no, we're going all in on this like second division to first division momentum here. Yeah. And, I don't know if I've been sort of damaged by DC United's perspective on USL Championship to like say, I feel like we could do better. Can't we? Can't we do better? But was there any kind of perspective from Red Bull fans as sort of what his pedigree? Obviously, he came as an assistant, so he was around the team for a while, right. So that maybe not. But I'm just curious if sort of his pedigree was ever a matter of discussion for Red Bull fans as he took over.
Well, I think that Red Bull fans, again, think about what we had. I mean, we had Chris Armas again, who won us the last Shield, and then famously got the tactics wrong in the playoffs. And Red Bull fans to this day talk about the second half of that game, all of that game. And to refresh your listeners' memories, Kamar Lawrence was hurt. They played Connor Lade at left back, and because all we did was press. Armas said that's just what they'll be expecting, and they didn't press, and they tore us apart, and we lost 3-0 in the first leg. And that team at the time had set the record for most points in a regular season in MLS history, and it was right there for us. And so Armas and then led us through a year and a half of in the wilderness, and then they brought in. Bradley Carnell, who was on the staff of an Armas' staff and seemed to perk the team up pretty nicely, and they were responding to him. And then they decided to, call home to Austria and bring this guy who, he was certainly effective, but he didn't, he wasn't a natural English speaker, and he was translating in real time. Like you could see, and to his defense, it was during COVID. His family was here. His family was there. It wasn't at the end he lost the team. And so to have a young guy who didn't make strange idioms come to life during press conferences and could talk to you like you were a real person, and at least for me in the local press corps, it was like a handshake, how are you, what's going on, tell me a little bit about who you are. I mean, he was very quick to put people at ease, and he became very likable. And I think there's something to be said for, we have these lower leagues, the players in them, I think we haven't talked about it, but like there seems to be somewhat of a barrier, right? Whether it's sort of corporate edict or not about USL players moving up and playing in MLS. Why shouldn't they? And why shouldn't coaches, right? I mean, this is what this is. And so I think it was such a refreshing change from, yes, the boys, they have to feel it in the chest and they have to be on the limit, to a real person that, doesn't sound like a overheated Arnold Schwarzenegger impersonation. So,
we're moving,
and that said, we've got our German coach who we're about to meet next Friday for the first time, and it'll be back to this.
We're moving from Scouse noises. That was the big meme. They did I don't know if you saw the YouTube video where they were translating. Wayne was just talking about something and it just said Scouse noises at the bottom. Right. So that's a little bit, yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead, Ted.
A little bit different. I did want to ask, and I think a lot of fans, I feel like when Lesane was hired, there was a lot of talk, a lot of maybe some criticism about, well, and I feel like, and maybe this, I'm sure this is completely unfair, but I feel like as soon as a coach goes to Red Bull, it's like they're labeled as like this, like Red Bull, they're from the Red Bull Academy, and it's like the coaching academy or whatever, like they play.
They only know how to play one way.
They're the Jesse Marsh style of press. I guess my question was, did you ever, I mean, I understood, he didn't get any help in the offseason. He had the players he had. They had built all the season to play the Red Bull pressing style. But did you ever get any sort of sense that, he either tried to change things or he maybe changed things up tactically that showed maybe a little astuteness in changing the way Red Bull played that season?
Yeah. So the first answer is yes. The second answer is, as much as the notion is that you come out of the Red Bull pressing coaching academy thing and you're all clones to each other, we've been told over and over again is not the case. And that while they will always, Jesse Marsh's famous first word to the Red Bull fan base at the Mike Petke, why did you fire Mike Petke presser, was, this is an energy drink, okay? And we're going to play like an energy drink. And everyone just like, no, don't, like, you might say, like, don't say it, like, think it and do it, but please don't remind us just don't do that. So I'll tell you that Troy, when he took over, 10 games into the 23 season, he understood that the strength of the team was always going to be in their ability to press for the entire length of the field. But he also said, if we're going to succeed, and at this time, the team had scored something like 6 goals in 11 games. I mean, he basically said, we simply must become comfortable with the ball at our feet, right? I mean, the whole high press philosophy is, if you get turnovers in the attacking third, you're so much closer to the goal. It's just so much easier to score. Why doesn't everybody do this? Right. But if you have players that just are trying to make every match a car crash, which is funny speaking to you guys at DC, because we've had some of the most unwatchable car crash matches over the last 5 years.
Goodness.
I mean, just uggers. But yes, under Lesane, the team became more adept at holding the ball, creating opportunities. And a great example of that, although now he's departed, is Luquinhas, who had come to the team the year before, started off with a bang. He's a guy of short stature, and opposing defenses said, well, if we kick the crap out of this guy, he's not going to be terribly effective. And that's what they did, and he disappeared. And so, and I'm sure that under Struber, it was just like, move it forward, just move it forward. That's all I want you to do is move it forward. And he's a creative player by nature. And down the stretch, he created and scored some magnificent goals. His creative dribbling led to the penalty kick on decision day against Nashville that allowed John Tolkien's penalty kick to send him to the playoffs. So that's just one example. Players like Frankie Amaya, who obviously has the ability to go forward. John Tolkien, as I mentioned earlier, who absolutely gets forward from the left back position and gets into the play. I spoke with Lesane on a number of occasions, who had nothing but praise for Jamai, but basically was just like, look, if he's comfortable with the ball on his feet and he feels that he can, be an impact on the attack, as long as he gets back and plays his defensive responsibilities, we absolutely need him as part of the attack. And so, I would say that he is not, a monolithic guy, but from a playing standpoint, but from a strategy standpoint, but he understands. Red Bull is always going to play this way, sadly, for better or for worse, whether you believe in it or you don't. And, but each individual coach has the freedom to do what they want. And I think that Lesane coming to this team will look at his pieces and decide how best to go about it. I mean, he certainly wasn't that in New Mexico, right? When that's not what he was.
We had a question from one of our listeners about sort of what type of players seem to thrive under Lesane. And obviously you mentioned part of that is young players are given opportunity to shine.
Yep.
You didn't get to see a transfer window where he actually got to get his type of players. I'm wondering if you see his type of players more as culture. Like, it feels like the thing, obviously it's early days. The conversation is about buy-in, culture, wanting to be here.
Yeah.
Do you think that is one of the lenses or one of the major lenses he's going to look at as he looks to build his team. And obviously, I think Ali Mackay is. I think he's calling the I think he's pulling the strings on that. I think that was part of this hire. It was sort of like, I'll do this part, you do this part. I'll allow you to do this, so I do this. But do you think, without having to know, like imagine you got to experience a transfer window with him, knowing what you know about him and the type of performances he coaxed out of the players you had. What type of players do you think that he would go after if you looked at just like an MLS? It's hard. It's kind of a hard question to answer, but what?
It's all right. It's okay. I'll give it a shot. First of all, consider that, at Red Bulls, it's really the head of sport and the sporting director's job. Like they really delineate it, and they have a growing sporting organization, as they call it, because they're pretentious Europeans, about the quality and the talent and the tactics and the signing and the coach. It's like, here's your tools. You go to work now. New York desperately needed quality up top, desperately. And so what did they do? They went and got two 19 and 22-year-old Colombians. One they signed who was like a right back, and the other I think was a midfielder or a forward. He was only on loan, so I don't think he got a point while he was here. The point being, I think he understood where his strengths were, and it's hard to really say, as you said, John, because he was here for 2/3 of a season, right? But they had a lot of strength in the back. They had strengths at the sixes. It really was creating goal scoring opportunities, and watching them just erase Charlotte FC in the 8-9 play-in game during the playoffs. They dropped 5 goals on them. Elias Manuel, a somewhat maligned 20-year-old Brazilian striker, had a hat trick. It was the first playoff hat trick for this franchise since back in the days before they were called this. And so, watching that game was really the culmination of his time with us, even though they went on to play 2 kind of tough games against Cincinnati and wound up being a little bit short, which is totally fine. But they scored 5 goals in a home playoff game, and it wasn't close. I think the final score was like 5-3, but they were up 3-0 and 4-1, and I have never in all my days, and I have been here for all of the days, been at a playoff game and being like, we're gonna win. This is great. Like, there was no
stress,
drama. There was no pressure. There were no offsides on a penalty kick attempt. There were no red cards. There was no snow shovels. There was none of that. It was just like we came out from the opening whistle and kicked the crap out of them and won the game. And it was like, every day this, because, consider, like, for the past 5 years, it's like every game is literally, taking days and weeks off your life because it's so close all the time. It's losing in the most incomprehensible ways, which, you guys are a part of that history. And it's like, just to have one shining moment, as, CBS says, to just be like, we won and we were better today and it wasn't close and this is awesome. And so that's, if I had one thing to thank Troy Lesesne for, it would be that. And of course, knowing, for him, he was like, it's great. It's in the past. Now it's Cincinnati. We're not going to celebrate. Yeah, this is how we should be playing all the time. And you're just like, you want to strap on the sandals and the shield and say, let's go, man. I'm right behind you.
Ted, I think if we score 5 goals in a home playoff game, they're going to build him a statue. After the last decade, they're gonna give him naming rights to the stadium.
I'll take a player who's onside from midfield, and maybe related to Ernie Stewart. I had to do it to you, Mark. I'm sorry.
After these last decade,
no way that he was onside. He wasn't in the camera. It was like he was on another planet. God damn it. Did you guys win that year? Was that 04?
That was 04. Yep, that was, buddy. I remember that.
Shit. 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Thanks for that. That's really great.
But Mark, again, I thank you so much for coming on. I really do appreciate it. You're always a fantastic sport. You're getting me excited and gassed up maybe for the Troy Lesesne era, which could either you're being genuine and it's great, or you actually think he's awful and you're just punishing a DC fan when it all goes south. I'm not sure which. No, I'm kidding. I know Mark is truly, for those listening, Mark is truly a really genuine person and really always excellent to come on. And I really appreciate, you've been doing it for 15 years. I think you've grown significantly, but you're always there to come and be on our show, and really appreciate all. And congrats on all the years you've been doing this. I know it's tough some days I'm sure after a game, you don't want to get up and do it. I know I have it. So you're really awesome.
Thank you for the kind words. And I wish you guys nothing but success, unless you are playing us. And in that case, you must fail miserably in the most painful way possible.
Hey man, we're waiting. I mean, you guys are spending some money, bringing some players in, a new direction. Maybe we'll look back on this as the moment that the Atlantic Cup came back and is finally getting the treatment it deserves for the legacy that it is. So
the kids today don't know, man. They don't know.
They don't. I keep hoping. I'm hoping, maybe we'll finally have a game on a Saturday instead of a Wednesday. So
what the hell was that? What is that?
I have no idea, man. I don't get it.
That's the league office really trying to push that Philly Union rivalry over this one. Like, what if your games were Tuesday at 3 a.m? What if we did that? So no one ever traveled or watched it or went to it.
So I was at, I know you guys are closing up. I was at the game at Audi when Bradley scored his 100th goal, and it stood up for the whole night. I remember there was like 2 hours of thunderstorms before the game, and the whole concourse at Audi, which was like barely open. It was open for like 3 weeks. Everything flooded. It was horrible. And the bus ride home was atrocious, but I'll always have that. So,
we brought the flooded concourses over from RFK and put them into Audi just as you feel at home, no matter where you are. I think that's what we tried to do there.
The craziest thing about that was like the lowest point on the concourse wasn't where the sewer grate was. Like the sewer grate was like 18 inches above the lowest point on the concourse, and it was like, well, that's good. Someone thought that out. That's awesome.
That's what happens when they build your stadium on a postage stamp on top of an electrical generator or whatever the hell we did. So that's
yeah, and no roof. I'm looking at pictures of Omaha Stadium, saying, "Oh man, look at that full roof covering all the fans."
Ted, if we've spent as much money as we spent on Audi Field in Omaha, it would be made of gold and it'd be levitating.
Be the Taj Mahal.
Would be. Mark, again, thank you so much. Go ahead and drop, people want to listen, maybe to gain some analysis, tell the good people where they can find you.
I mean, I can't imagine that's going to happen, but the show is called Seeing Red, and it's available on all platforms that you can shake a stick at, except for the TikTok. It's not good for the kids, but you could find it at Seeing Red NY. And that's how you'll get to us.
Yeah, and it's always good to keep up on your enemies. So I still subscribe and still check in on occasion. So know your enemy is what I always say. So
you
Mark, thank you again, guys. Thank you all so much for listening. If you're listening to this right now, you are listening on our special Patreon feed. Maybe this show will be out in the future, but if you want to join our patreon.com/RFK-Refugees, you get access to great content like this, where we dive into, world. And you also get, some Thursday, Friday shows when we're on breaks or when, during the off season. So it's definitely worth supporting the show. Thank you guys so much for listening. We will catch you guys in a while. Vamos.
Turn off the record. Thank you for listening to RFK Refugees Podcast. Make sure you rate and review the show wherever you download podcasts. If you want to support the show, consider joining our Patreon or subscribing to our channel on Twitch. Lastly, make sure you're following us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Threads, YouTube, Twitch, Goals.tv, Friendster, MySpace, and Tumblr. Some of those are even real. Vamos.